What is up, friends, YouTube and motorcycle enthusiasts? This is Accelerate coming at you from the mountains of West Virginia. I am on a trip up to see my family. So I'm from West Virginia, the northwest side of the state, so close to Mid-Ohio River Valley. So that's where I'm from. So I come home, and I always bring my bikes. And then this time I also brought, my wife brought her KLX 140 RF, and she's not out riding right now. She's studying. She's got a big exam coming up, so she's getting after that. While I'm out here trying to enjoy some of this weather. So I want to make a video that's been on my mind, and we're going to take a ride real quick, and we're going to talk about riding solo. So we're going to talk about pros and cons of riding solo and why I think riding solo is worth it. So I'm going to be a little biased on the pros, but let's talk about it. As many of you know, I'm riding, as you can see, I just did the full review on my YZ250FX 2015 model, and the beta is getting some mods and upgrades. I got a good video coming of that, but not yet. So Old Faithful, the reliable steed, is what I brought up here with me, and I'm going to ride some of the trails, some trails that I grew up on, and some new trails that my parents are avid horse enthusiasts, so they ride horses. They have ever since I was a little boy, and I used to ride as well, but then I also ride motorcycles, got into dirt bikes, and now ride. I don't really ride horses these days, but in any case, so if many of you are wondering why I'm not freezing my tuchus off, because I'm wearing my Joe Rocket suit. So if many of you know that don't know, or if you've been around my channel for a while, when I have my FZ09, I purchased this Joe Rocket suit, and this thing is fantastic. I love it. I'm literally wearing a t-shirt and silkies underneath, aka the Ranger panty with my knee braces. So this is pretty much all I'm wearing. I am toasty. In fact, I just started riding and I'm starting to sweat. So in any case, if you guys haven't seen that Joe Rocket, I can't remember the name of it. It's like a former. It's the only suit they make. I know that. So I want to say it's about 350, 400 bucks. If you can still find them, awesome. They will keep you warm. Obviously, super slick. Man, the snow's on the ground, and we're expecting more snow, which I am excited about. I don't get to ride in snow. In fact, this is probably the first time. So my Kenda Ibex, probably not the best rear for this, but I don't know, it's not doing too bad. So anyway, on with the show. So what I wanted to make the video about is, as I mentioned, pros and cons, not 5 reasons, pros and cons of riding solo. So let's start with the cons, and then I think we got a pro that could probably counteract that. And I'll get through here. Tuck down, up. Dad told me he had been through here to see there wasn't any limbs down. But first let's start with the cons. A con of riding solo, as many of you know, is if you get hurt, you are not necessarily going to have a lifeline. You don't have a buddy. There's no one around. And I mean, I'm over here riding on my parents' property. So I'm not far, really. But as many of you guys know, I mean, people ride, you get out west and even some rural parts of the East Coast, you can be miles and miles from anybody. And you know, that's a danger. You could get hurt, you could get stuck, and there's cases of people literally passing on out in the wilderness after they get hurt. So it's a serious thing that a lot of people take seriously, and there's no one there to help you, essentially. And as we know, with off-road riding, we armor up, we do what we think is best, but it doesn't take that much. It doesn't take that much of a wrong fall or a stick or whatever. You know, you fall the wrong way, you can seriously get injured, so you got to take stuff seriously. So, whew. So that is definitely a con, is the injury. So moving on, I just love this part of the trail, and you can see for long ways. It's just so nice. Another big con to riding solo, and probably what I would say, if I don't wipe out here, this may be a con, my first con, this snow and ice is slick, so I am taking it easy, making sure not to keep my rear brake right where it needs to be, and my front without getting too hyper. So another huge con, and what a lot of people say about riding solos, is just not as fun. And I agree. It's not as fun, and especially whenever you're starting to get into the sport, it's like anything else. Most people, when they first start learning how to play pool, they're not out there at the pool hall or bar or whatever you have it, banking balls and practicing their shots. It's just not that common. When you get into a sport or a hobby, it's funner together to be doing it solo, to have the motivation or the, you know, just the want to get out there and ride solo. So in any case, it's something that I have to agree with. You know, just like riding alone and getting hurt, riding solo, you can absolutely not have as much fun, especially if you're new to the sport. Boy, these gutters will get you under the snow. Reminds me of a time whenever I jacked up my ribs. It's all about feathering. I'm actually going to stop here and check my rear tire, make sure I ain't got something funky going on, because it's very, very, very slick through here. So I'm going to check it. Nope. Alright, so as suspected, it's literally just ice. It's ice-capades. This is solid ice through here. So I'm all over the place. But as I always like to say, it's good training. Oh yeah. Spinning constantly. So that's a big deal with you know, with people. They want to have fun when they're doing something, especially the amount of time and money that you put into this is you know, it's not cheap to get into, and it takes a lot of time and effort. You know, if you want to ride dirt bikes and get good at it, it's one of those things. Oh, it's a new trail. Maybe we'll go scope it out. If you want to get into it, it's going to take a little money. And it's one of those things, yeah, it's got way more traction in the unbeaten path because it's not ice. Whee! Up front ain't got nothing. So I get it, you know, I do. So that is a valid point. So I searched high and low, really, on what I thought would be the reasoning on not to ride solo, and that's really most of what I could come up with. But you guys can feel free to add comments down in the comments section if you got one, and we can talk about it. I think those are really two of the major pros and cons. I can't really think of anything else other than the risk of being injured and then, you know, not having as much fun, which with another person everything's funner, like I talked about. So let's talk about some pros. And I think some of these pros can outweigh the cons, and then I'll give us some. Then I'll readdress the cons and give some things that we can do to counteract those. So pros: when you're riding solo, it is just you and the machine. You can focus on the bike. You can focus on riding. You can focus on increasing your skill. You're not waiting for anybody. You're not trying to catch up to anybody or worried about being left behind. So, you know, it's the biggest pro for me for riding solo is it's you and your machine. So take that for what it is. Now, you and your machine could be focusing on technique. You and your machine could be a more relaxed ride because, you know, your buddy's not wanting to zoom ahead of you all the time. You know, whenever you're wanting to go slower and relaxed. And you know, you can have a more relaxed time or you can have a more focused time, however you want to look at that. So the next pro to riding solo, in my opinion, is just that, being able to focus on your technique. So we talk a lot of channels, I say it's funny, we talk a lot of channels talk a lot about improving your technique. And that's one of the things as a new guy, as a new rider, the better my technique gets, the more capable I get, the funner things get, the more challenging. I like to challenge myself. And it's just fun. It's just, to me, that's what makes any sport and hobby, you know, to get better and better and open up all the aspects of it. So, with that in mind, you know, I can focus on my technique when I'm solo. I can literally stop in the middle of the trail right now, do pivot turns for 30 minutes, and then keep riding. It don't matter, you know. It's totally my world, my game, my ride, and I can get on and focus on my technique as much as I want. So I think that's a huge pro to riding solo. So another pro for me, other than, you know, riding your own ride, focusing on your technique, another pro for me is probably may not apply to everybody. This is super slick, guys, and you know how I love downhill. Is I'm able to get footage for my channel. You know, I can do these rides. As many of you know, I'm a big proponent whenever I do ride with friends, especially off-road. Doesn't really apply to MX, but is having headsets, being able to communicate with each other. And to me, that's awesome. You know, it's really something that I like to do. Slick. And but if I got somebody, you know, if I can't exactly make a video with somebody in my ear, and you know, it's kind of hang out, friend time, riding together. We like to talk, have big time. It's fun. But you know, riding solo gives me a chance to make my vids and get some footage, which for me is a huge advantage. This is slicker than snot right here, guys. Actually went down back there, but if you'll notice, I'm missing my plastic handguards. I took them off simply because one of them broke. So I said, I'll take the other one off, it's fine. This is super slick. It's ice from quads running up through here. Off the beaten path. Look at that, front brake, tons of bite. Same with the rear. But those are pros and cons for me. So I actually like riding solo. So let's talk about some of the cons. Look how slick this is. Some of the cons, some of the things you can counteract those cons with. So now that my opinion of pros and cons are out there, let's talk about that. So one of the first things I said was, you know, risk of injury. So with risk of injury, that is a real fear, as I mentioned. But one of the things I think that people should always do whenever you're riding solo, and some of the things that people don't think to do, is number one, always have a cell phone on you. I know a lot of people talk about getting away and you know, not worried about phone calls, this and that, but as many of you know, I'm a big proponent of Avenza. Avenza apps allow me to pull up my location, you know, and right now I'm tracking my location. It also gives me the ability to make a phone call. I'm back here in the mountains. I don't get much of a signal down in the valley, but up here I got 4G full bars. I can make a phone call if I need to. So the other piece of that is this device right here, and it's an emergency services device. This is a Spot Gen 3. Garmin makes them. There's lots of different ones out there. And all this is a way for me to send messages, check in with my wife and say that I'm okay, or if shit hits the fan, SOS. I need help. It will send out a signal and emergency services can come. And you probably say, well, Accelerate, you know, this is really for, you think of this as, I'm not going to spend a bunch of money for something where I just ride in OHV parks and stuff like that. It does not matter, folks. It does not matter. If you get tossed over the hill and you have to spend the night out somewhere, you could die of hypothermia if you were seriously injured. Broken ribs, punctured lung, broken limb, animals. There's so many different variables that you couldn't think of, and you say, well, it's okay. It's the same principle as always wearing knee braces, right? You always take a device with you, and that device stays in my bag. No matter what bag, no matter how slim I'm going, other than riding at the MX track, that's about the only exception. That is the only place I don't have it on my person. Not on the bike, not hidden in a tool bag, hidden in the fender, on my person. Because if I get thrown from the bike down over that hill, then that's when it becomes a real issue. So this is really one of the biggest ways to counteract that, is to have those emergency services device and have a cell phone with you. Talking, not paying attention. have a cell phone with you. Boy, it's just slicker than snot up here. The woods aren't even remotely this slick. And the tracks just pull you into it. It's just so slow, so slick. So that's a big counteract to that. So the next thing is things are funner with friends. So I'm not going to say that it's not, like I mentioned before. And however, there is one thing I have found about riding solo, and I would offer this to somebody. If you like music and you like spending a little bit of time by yourself, that's where I think a Sena headset comes in. Man, I have a lot of fun just listening to music on my headset, in my helmet, and riding. It's just, I get in the zone. It's just me and the machine, you know, and I'm not. Oh, she's real ice down here. It's not that slick here. No beaten path, it's not that slick. Big problem is though, you can't see nothing. So, in any case, those are my my offerings to the cons of riding solo. Some people will never change their mind, that's fine. Everybody's entitled to enjoy the sport and the hobby to how they see fit. I will offer this though as well. If you want to get better, if you enjoy riding and you want riding to be funner for you, you got to get seat time, guys. You got to get out there and apply yourself to build your skill set. Otherwise, you're just always going to feel like a noob, you know? You're always going to feel underprepared for the situations that come. There will be bumps and bruises along the way, but realistically, getting out there, getting some seat time, and riding is the best thing you can do. The problem is, we always don't have oodles of friends that are willing to ride with us or the time to ride. So if you're only enjoying your hobby on somebody else's schedule, then you're going to be limited. So I encourage people to ride solo. I've seen YouTube videos where people say, whatever, you know, don't ride solo. You know, I had a friend that got hurt or got killed, and these, you know, I would say that it does not matter what you do, there are dangers involved. You know, I'm not going to live my life totally depending on other people on their timeline to get out there and enjoy my hobby. And that may be one way that I'm different, is that I have a passion for riding, a passion for dirt biking, and a passion for getting better at this sport. So it's something that I want, you know, I'm willing to take those risks. If those risks are not worth it for you, then that is a-okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not here, I don't think really a lot of people are here at all to judge how to enjoy this sport and in this hobby. I say, you know, have fun the best way you know how. So I hope this has been informative for you guys. I hope that I offered to share a little bit of light. Like I said before, put some thoughts down in the comments below, you know. We'll talk about it. If you guys think that there's other reasons, pros or cons, put them in there and we'll talk about it. So, in any case, this is a good time for me getting out here in the snow and riding solo. So, I hope you guys get out there, have a fantastic week. Don't work too hard. Make sure you get on 2 wheels and ride a dirt bike. This is Accelerate once again, signing off.